All right, welcome to episode 3 of the More Than Dogs podcast. Here are the owners, Mike and Joe. Sorry for the delay with the year span, but today we're going to talk a little fun, talk about some food, things we like to cook, some of the challenges we've engaged with in the last decade or so. Mike, let's start with you. What do you like to cook?
I like to make stuff up, which I mean, it's in like say it's a traditional recipe. Like I don't make homemade pizza or try to excel at any of that, and I completely make stuff up. But like chicken melts is fun, even though it's a simpler thing. My mom's chicken lemon rice recipe that all you guys like. I don't know, all you guys as in the audience.
What chicken lemon rice?
Oh, so chicken lemon rice recipe like my mom found forever ago. White rice, cream of broccoli soup, and like grilled chicken breast. So you just throw grilled chicken breast chopped up on top of some white rice, cream of broccoli soup all over it, and bake it in the oven until it's like hot in one piece, like one casserole kind of thing, and then eat it with some lemons and biscuits. You know, lemon juice squirted on it and biscuits.
What I think really adds to that meal specifically is the flaky biscuits that are
the Grand's flakes, butter
right.
flakes.
They're like layered, so
Yeah.
you can. There's almost like 2 or 3 parts to the biscuit. You can peel them off and use the biscuit as a sandwich and squeeze lemon on it. It's really delicious.
Yeah.
What about when you talk about you like to make stuff up, but you don't necessarily want to make things from scratch? Like you're not trying to make your own pizza or come up with your own pizza recipe. But talk a little bit more about how you use food that already exists and you make creations out of that already.
What's an example of someone that consumes a lot of my food? Like what comes to your mind?
Well, I think back to what you did the last time we had chicken melts. Actually, you made like a buttery sauce, and a chicken melt is essentially a grilled cheese, right, with chicken on it. But then you made
Well, here's the thing, so anyone that knows, like I love grilled cheese, but I'll almost never eat it without meat on it, because like I'll say I'm not a peasant. I don't want just bread, butter, and cheese.
You're trying to have some protein.
Yeah, protein and just substance. You know, otherwise I'm eating 5 grilled cheese because I can eat a lot. But to that comes point is like, well, typically whenever my family would have grilled cheese, I would always have Crockett's Polish ham on my grilled cheese, right? And then chicken melts come up because it's like, well, we need protein. Well, why don't we make grilled cheese but with chicken on it? So, well, that's a melt that you can get at any restaurant, right? You can turkey melts, chicken melt, Monte Cristo, whatever. But so when we would typically make chicken melts, grilled chicken on bread, toasted bread or grilled bread with cheeses and fresh jalapenos, right? Like
Right, and then we usually top it with mustard and pickles.
Mustard and like, you know, burger pickles. So this last time, I shout out to Sam the cooking guy. I watch a lot of his videos. He's always making sauces, right? So whether it's for burgers or a sandwich, he does a lot of Japanese mayo and then mixes it with different things like sriracha or, you know, butter, garlic, any of that kind of stuff. So I took some mayonnaise and mixed it with I melted down butter and then mixed it with mayonnaise and then put some like pepper and garlic and some other stuff in there and some spice and then re-solidified it to like a spread, and then I used that to butter the bread that got toasted to make, you know, to hold the chicken melts.
Right. And so essentially that grill effect that you get on the toast from the butter had so much more flavor, but it wasn't overpowering. It was just enough to really make the sandwich unique. And I think that's what you mean when you say you like to make stuff up. Like you take things that exist and you put your own twist on it, and it really lends to what we do at More Than Dogs in general too, because we have this large menu when you look at a basic operation, but it's really just a play on a lot of the same food items. That's one thing I like to do too, is I like making chicken melts.
Well, that's what I do for breakfasts, right? A lot, or like throughout the summer, especially when I make the different scrambles. I call them scrambles. But like it's all eggs based, whether it's egg whites or whole eggs. But we're throwing leftovers in there from the cart. You know, we take home the leftovers, whether it's hot dogs, Polishes, brats, or we're mixing in fresh, you know, turkey sausage or any of that. But just combining stuff together. Then you take a potato and you're throwing it in there, jalapenos, green pepper, and It's nothing that you won't find on a menu under a different name or a skillet or anything like that, but just these are the ingredients we have to work with. Let's make something that could taste half decent and probably doesn't look all that great though.
Absolutely. One of my favorite breakfast bowls now is what you make in the summers when we have those leftover jalapeno cheddar brats and Polishes. I mean, diced up with barbecue sauce drizzled over
like
it.
a southern bowl.
Yeah, it's like a southern bowl. The eggs, potatoes, cheese. The jalapeno brat. It's just the perfect combination of flavors for breakfast, and it's all using just leftover food from the night before.
But another shout out to that, or like an influence. So like subliminally, I don't think about them, but my influences for breakfast is when I worked at the Tribune and we were at the Tribune Tower. One of the places in the Illinois Center, like all the restaurants would be open in the morning for breakfast. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was like Southern something or barbecue this or Southern barbecue. But it was a barbecue Southern place that actually opened for breakfast, and they served breakfast bowls. So then you got to choose, like, your base was they had country potatoes for your hash browns, and then you chose your kind of eggs, you chose your kind of protein, your kind of barbecue sauce, and your cheese, and it's essentially what I recreated. But that was my inspiration. Was like, it's like if it wasn't for the eggs in there, it would be a lunch thing, But it's great for breakfast once you throw eggs in there and some breakfast potatoes.
Yeah, no, I love breakfast bowls, and really I only started loving them in the last year because you put me onto them. But they're honestly the shit.
Well, our leftover meat kind of lends to that kind of flavor too,
right. Yeah, exactly. They're all sausage links.
Yeah.
They could be grilled, they could be steamed, it doesn't matter. I personally do love eating chicken melts though for a number of reasons. I'd love to eventually see it on our menu just because it packs a punch. They're like it's a hearty snack.
Yeah.
Like it'd be a great lunch item.
But you don't feel disgusting after.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, like you had a light butter spread on the toast to give it that grill, and then you have 6 to 8 ounces of chicken breast on there, and that's packed with protein. It's lean meat, and it's just a tasty sandwich. So it's a way for someone to have an affordable lunch at a reasonable dietary level, But okay, let's move on now. Like let's go with these next 7 to 10 minutes and talk a little bit about some of the. Well, let's just pick one.
Well, I was gonna say no. Wait, you can't get away. What's your one thing you like to cook then?
I like to cook steak, and I like to cook steak and chicken, which is all dandy. But what I like to do specifically is mess with the way that I marinate stuff, and like you tell me about this too. But I'm always changing the different spices that I will mix together to rub on chicken or rub on steak to give it like that barbecue type of flavor without really going through the hassle of having to smoke something or take care of it for hours on end. I will get creative with the different flavors and spices that I have in my cabinet, and find what works in terms of the amount, the quantity, and what works together. So most recently I like to put I have like this bourbon smoked brown sugar, and this like bourbon smoked seasoning that I will use in combination along with like red pepper mix, and I'll rub it across the chicken breast. And so I'll sear the chicken breast on each side with that rub on it, which kind of gives it the flavor before I throw it in the oven to bake. And then before it actually finishes, I'll pull it out and I'll throw barbecue sauce on it and put it back in just to warm it up. And it's been coming out really good, but it's just a product of nothing really changing with how I cook the steak or the chicken, but the flavors that I add to it. That's what I enjoy a lot too, just because it's a staple for me, right? Like having a quality meat to eat. When you're trying to stay in like reasonable health and shape, right? You need a decent amount of protein in your diet. So staying on that theme, the only way to really change up and not experience pellet fatigue or not give in to just screw it, I'm going to Taco Bell tonight, is to mix up the flavors in your diet. And so what I like to do is just take things and add different spices to it.
So just to finalize this, or just to go off of that, I actually I don't hate marinating stuff. Because for as much as I like to eat, for as much as I like food, and for as much as I do like cooking, I either like to plan to cook and know I'm cooking a big meal, like if I'm making fajitas and I'm making everything homemade, or if I'm making something I know everything's homemade and that's my adventure to do that, Otherwise, if I'm not doing that and I'm making something, I want to cook as fast as I can and clean as fast as I can. You know.
Right.
Like I want it's either an all or nothing for me, which I think is kind of a funny contradiction.
That's a great point. That's a great
chicken
point.
melts you're in and out because that shit goes in the air fryer and then it gets on the grill on the flat pan, you know, whatever. But you tell me if I say I'm gonna make a big meal for us, then I know I'm cooking for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and that's fine. I'll use every pot in my house. But if I'm not planning that, I actually don't like cooking. Like I want the simplest meal I can make.
That's a great point because one thing that I forgot to mention is another reason that I like to cook chicken and steak is there's a lot of one pan recipes.
Yeah. Sam the cooking guy has a lot of videos on that, guys.
One pan recipes are so critical for me in regard to trying not to make it a full blown mess in your kitchen. Right, a lot of things that you could just, if you can get it done in one pan, I mean, the amount of cleanup, you're talking about the labor before and after.
Yeah.
If you're cooking dinner for yourself every night, you're spanning up to 2 hours then of cooking and cleaning. If you can keep it to one pan, you just keep it at a normal duration and you can have a good meal.
Yep. Yeah, but like just an example, yesterday's lunch, I took a ribeye and I broiled it in the oven in my skillet. But that's all I did. I seasoned and broiled it, but I threw it on bread. Like instead of like, oh, this deserves to be a full meal, I just took the ribeye and put it on bread and ate it because I didn't want to cook.
Right. Sometimes cooking's half the battle. It's like the need to do it. It sucks, and then I could see the value in eating out in a lot of ways.
Cool. Yeah. So the other half of this, I was saying we should talk about since we're talking about food and fun with it, is the times that we've had like oversized food or challenges intentionally, right? So what we want to talk about first? Like
so for this I was thinking I'll just talk on one experience where I thought I could engage in a food challenge no problem and succeed, and you could probably speak to that too with one of your stories. But for me specifically, one of the times that I felt like absolute shit trying to do one of these challenges was for was it my 21st birthday?
I think it was your
maybe?
21st, yeah.
We went to Pancho Pistola's and we got 17-inch burritos, and I was thinking that it wasn't really going to be an issue to eat. I mean, a 17-inch burrito is massive, but we were also drinking some margaritas, and the combination of alcohol, liquid, and food.
Yeah, probably 2 pitchers.
Right, the massive tortillas. I thought I'd be able to knock it down no problem, and I did finish it, but I felt like absolute shit. I couldn't move. Like I really couldn't walk. I lived a block away at the time, and I was hunched over walking back to the house after eating this, and I was just out of commission for a few hours. And the best part is my family had ordered pizza not even 2 hours later to have cake and eat some pizza for my birthday.
I remember that we had the fake eating.
Yeah, like I probably had half a slice after that because I felt like absolute shit. What about you?
Well, for that specifically, I remember feeling similar, but I didn't try to eat the whole thing. I opened up the tortilla and just, I'm always like, if I need to try and finish something, I'm gonna eat the meat out of it. Well, a literal challenge, I failed twice at trying to do the Bacci's pizza eating challenge, just the qualification, where you had to go to their restaurants anytime, like a couple weeks up into the actual event, and you had to eat 2 slices in under 20 minutes or 15 minutes. And 2 consecutive years in a row, I couldn't do it. First year I tried to gobble the slice. I finished the first slice in like 4 minutes, and then somehow over the next 16 minutes I could not finish that second slice. But then, the bread felt disgusting, and then drinking water trying to get it go down was disgusting. And it's funny because if you gave me enough time, I could probably eat that. Or it's like that doesn't seem like that much food. Then again, if you know Bacci slices, they're huge, right? But what I thought was kind of funny is that even if I qualified, the person who won the actual contest at the event ate 8 slices, I believe. So they literally ate the whole jumbo pizza of those slices come from, and I wouldn't have shown up for that. I wouldn't have been able to do even anywhere near that. So
right. It's interesting too. What do you think plays a part in not being able to finish those slices in a certain amount of time?
Well, I'm sure we know there's a strategy to it, right? Like we've seen some of the, what do you call them, competition eaters, right? Like like Joey Chestnut and the people that talk about like changing your palate or doing stuff in certain things and literally training for it. Just because whether you're overweight and you like to eat doesn't mean you can just take down a whole bunch of food in a time constraint, right? Like I said, if I would have just been chilling there for a half hour or whatever, not even had the pressure, I'd probably kill those slices like nothing. Probably eat more pizza than a normal sitting of eating pizza. I think there's just a strategy when there's a time constraint and you're eating only that thing, right? Like, why don't they switch it up with like salt or something, or sweets depending on what you're eating?
Yeah, I don't remember the combination, but there is something like if you're eating something really salty and you're getting palate fatigue, you'd eat ice cream
right.
and then go back to eating that salty thing to continue with the competition. And same thing if you had an ice cream challenge, I guess you would have fries to like offset the fatigue to go back to eating that ice cream.
It's interesting to just quickly think about, so those are our two scenarios or examples there, massive foods, but to think about what is the point or concept of certain things. Like, I love the Mother Clucker from Carbone. It's a pound of chicken, or they say it's a pound of chicken. Don't usually have a problem with like putting that down, but it's almost, there's the only thing that's in there is chicken and the tortilla sauces or here and there or whatever, right? Or onions. But then you have something like there's a little weight difference, but why? I'm guessing why do people make up these menu items? You have the Martinez 3-pound burrito, unless you're intentionally sharing these with other people. What is the actual point other than being like a marketing gimmick? The oversized largest bowl of ramen in Japan that we had, anything that it's just like excessively big. Is it purely a marketing thing, or is there truly a market for it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with Pancho specifically, I could see the burrito being split between 2 to 3 people because they're going there for drinks.
Yeah.
And I guess if I was the owner, I would maybe put something on the menu like that on purpose for that reason. But then you have a place like Martinez where even their small burritos are massive.
Yeah.
And they are known for having massive burritos. And then they have like the 3-pound burrito where it legitimately comes in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a baseball bat in the box. It's a long rectangular cardboard box, and there's a giant burrito in it. And we even did a challenge like that where there was like 2 guys to each burrito, and we cut it in half, and we each tried to take down our half of the burrito. And I'll say that was a lot easier for me to eat because I wasn't filled up with margaritas.
Yeah, what's funny is like still we each ate probably give or take a pound and a half of a burrito, right? Like
yeah.
But yeah, that was easier.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a contest at Fontano Subs where you could eat the
3-foot meatball sandwich.
It's
right?
a 3-foot meatball sandwich with, I think there's a total of 17 slices of provolone cheese on it, and I would never even engage in just the thought of attempting to do it because it's so much bread, it's so much cheese. You gotta eat the whole thing before you can even. I mean, how could you eat that much bread and cheese? Like the meat is one thing, but everything else is just so filling. But there's a competitive eater who did succeed.
Molly or something.
Her name is Molly. I think there's like 2 or 3 people that have done it, but her name is Molly. You could probably find her on YouTube. But she did it in like 5 minutes. She ate a 3-foot meatball in 5 minutes, the entire thing. And if you look at this girl, she's legitimately a toothpick. So it's really a strategy to it. I mean, it's a strategy also, and it's got to be some combination between tactic and the ability to just house food, right? Like our stomachs are all a little bit different. We can all hold different amounts of food, but that girl is an absolute tank. Got anything else?
No, I mean, I can go on 10 different tangents like anything, and it's maybe his thoughts for future things, but just to like some of the points we could talk about later, but not to actually go into, is like to further expand on why people do it. Why do you have your menu offerings like that? Is it truly a marketing thing? What is the cost of things? Because sometimes things that make a huge item, they're just giving you a ton of the cheap thing, right? Like that ramen bowl, once we ate most things, it was all bean sprouts. There was nothing good there, right? But
I got tired of it.
But it was like 12 inches tall on bean sprouts. But just an example, like they didn't give you tons of meat or something, in their menu item. Because also then it does full circle back to when we try and think of new menu items, when we're trying to give people proper portions for a good price. What is the selling point? Is there something cool in having a quadruple cheeseburger, you know, like is it anyone gonna buy that, or is it just to say it's cool because it's on the menu?
Right.
You know, just think about those kind of things. So it's the balance. Is it a marketing gimmick or is there a market for it?
Right. I think it's a combination of both, depending on what it is. Like a quadruple cheeseburger is pretty much just unnecessary.
Right.
Like we could just make a bigger cheeseburger. Like that's a single or a double.
Yeah.
But when we create a double, us specifically, like we're just trying to add more value at an incremental price increase. But when you think about the Martinez burrito, I think that is literally them. Is like that is their gimmick.
Yeah.
Like you can't get a normal sized burrito there. It's just a big burrito, and so it really just depends on the business like perspective you're trying to take. I think Freddy's they had like the Yerminator or whatever. What is it?
Yeah, his burger,
Yeah.
which was huge.
And that was a gimmick, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ordered it. That it wasn't really enticing to me, but I could see why that's a good marketing ploy. They sent it to him, right?
Yeah, they got video of him having it. But yeah, it's just an interesting that wrap this up, but the true dichotomy between a marketing thing and a market for it, you know? The Martinez burrito, it's not even something like you're gonna get and say, yeah, I'm gonna eat, what, a quarter for breakfast, half for dinner, you know, save, you know, half for lunch tomorrow, compared to like a king-size breaded steak sandwich everyone loves reheated recommending, and you're like, I'll eat half now and half later, possibly.
Yeah.
That just seems to make more sense.
You know, now that I think about it, Taco Bell they're experts at that. I mean, you can argue whether or not some of those items should stay on the menu, but they are experts at bringing out a new item, marketing it as the gimmick to get you there, and then you probably get something else that's also normally on the menu,
Right.
so that gimmick gets you there, but something else is what you got.
Right.
You know.
See, but it's key to have the gimmick and the staples, right? You need both.
But, all right, that wraps up episode 3. Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.